Kash Patel, who is wildly accomplished chief of staff to the Department of Defense, where his responsibilities including implementing the Secretary of Defense mission involving 3 million plus employees, blah, blah, blah. He went from the Pentagon to serving with Donald Trump. He became the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence. You were the you were the acting DNI, I believe, for a very long time. And, of course, they tried to destroy his life. Kash Patel joins us now. Hello, Kash. How are you?
Yeah, great to be with you, Glenn.
Thank you. All right. I wanted to talk about what just came out with Molly Hemingway this weekend, where we now know that the January 6th committee had testimony from you and several others on what actually happened in the White House on the days leading up to January 6th, where Trump was calling for 10,000 troops to be on the street because he felt that the left was going to act up and actually hurt the people that were coming for these rallies. But they wouldn't do anything about it. They would not take him up on it at all. And that's now proven, and they knew that, but they kept that away from the official report.
Yes, Glenn, just like when the FBI went to a FISA court and lied to them and withheld exculpatory evidence just to target a political opponent and unlawfully surveil him, the January 6th committee took one page out of their book and repeated that same instance of conduct for a propaganda political endpoint. I was in the Oval Office as chief of staff to the DOD days before January 6th. President Trump unequivocally authorized 10 to 20,000 National Guardsmen and women. And why is that important, Glenn? Because only the president can make that authorization. But he is not allowed under the Constitution to deploy the order right. The deployment, of the National Guard. So what do? We dispatch senior DOD officials to Mayor Bowser, who's in charge of D.C., and the Capitol Police, who are in charge of the Capitol, and reported to Nancy Pelosi at that time. And they, in writing, rejected the use of additional National Guard. Not Donald Trump. They did that. And now we find out 2 years after I testified to the Jan 6 committee demanding a public hearing, and they failed to release my transcript for almost 2 years. A year and a half after that, they released the transcript of Tony Ornato, a career apolitical Secret Service officer assigned to the White House for presidential protection. And what does his transcript say? He confirms that President Trump, days before, authorized the use of 10 to 20,000 National Guardsmen and women, and the chief of staff, myself, the Secretary of Defense, and the chairman were all in the Oval Office when it happened. This is the exculpatory evidence that Liz Cheney and company have buried for 2 years to achieve a political gain.
So, Kash, we are so corrupt now. People are saying if they could do this to the president of the United States, they'd do it to anybody. Well, they are doing it to many nobodies and anybody. And this has got to stop. It doesn't seem like the mainstream media cares, but at some point, it will reach enough ears where people will say, I am afraid of this government, quite honestly. They are everything that they say Donald Trump is. They're already doing it. What do you say?
Their hypocrisy.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Their hypocrisy, as I think you were alluding to, their projection is what they do, and they own the mainstream media. So back when we did Russiagate, and if you tie the threads together of their similar conduct between Russiagate, between FISA, between January 6th, between Hunter Biden's laptop, the 51 Intel letter, just to name a few things, they use the same playbook. Lie as government gangsters, destroy the American faith in the institution, but utilize their partners in the media to make themselves look like the heroes. And I think the breakthrough we are now having is we have proven right each and every one of these instances, the truth.
So, Kash, at some point, the tables turn, and the country is already turning against a lot of this stuff. And you're running a guy who just he's not going to win. If it's fair, there's no way he's going to win. It'll be Trump in a landslide, I believe. However, that's if it's fair. However, they don't seem worried about it at all. What is their end game? How do you keep your borders open, have murders happening on our streets, crime on the streets? We're going to have a terrorist attack. It's only a matter of time. What's your exit plan? Because Bubba is going to look at this and go, well, you were the ones who caused it.
Mm-hmm. I think the exit plan for the radical left wing and mainstream media is Trump derangement syndrome, get him at all costs. What I think we've done over time through your great reporting and your network's amazing reporting of the truth is Americans are saying, wait a second, those things are not right-wing conspiracies. That's the truth. The mainstream media lied to me. And I think what President Trump is brilliantly doing is taking that on the campaign trail every day and saying, yes, there's corruption in D.C. Yes, they're rigging presidential elections. But yes, we can defeat them because we are going to win so big that the rig is not going to matter. And every time we put out one of these blockbuster truths, I mean, this is like a Russiagate style reporting, blockbuster Newsday that I'm reporting to you directly with an op-ed to follow, the American people wake up in droves. And I think, maybe I'm naive, but I think that is going to carry the day to solve the corruption in D.C.
I hope so, because it's really, it's disturbing to see how methodical they are. Do you think they knew that January 6th was going to happen?
Yes. I think they not only knew, but the political monsters like Pelosi, Cheney, Kinzinger, Schiff, et al. Wanted that political narrative. Why else would you shut down an authorization for National Guardsmen and women? I mean, all you have to do is ask, they keep calling us liars. Just ask yourself this. If President Trump didn't authorize it, then how did me and the Secretary of Defense dispatch senior officials to Pelosi and Bowser's office seeking their request for National Guard? It would have been factually and legally impossible. And they shut it down because they wanted to hang that narrative and have that painting of no-climb fence and a militia-style downtown Kandahar in downtown Washington, D.C. to achieve their political narrative, which was insurrection. It failed in court, and now it is failing in the court of public opinion because the truth has finally come out that the January 6th committee buried evidence that corroborates what we've been saying for 3 years.
How deep does the corruption in the military and intel go? Did we have incognito special forces on the ground on January 6th?
No. That's not to say a civilian who was a special forces operator didn't himself go. But me and the Secretary of Defense would never have allowed that. That would have broken the chain of command. It's just not what would have happened. And we didn't have that there on that day.
But the intel, I mean, you were DNI.
Yeah.
The intel industry is doing stuff that you wouldn't have liked or wanted to happen either. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Chris Wray had the intelligence. And just ask yourself this. How is it that Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts knew to board up the windows in and around the Capitol, but the intelligence community and the FBI didn't? Well, as it turns out, Christopher Wray had an intel report saying that there could be violence in and around January 6th. And what did he do? He withheld it. He suppressed it. The calling card of the deep state. As long as your political narrative is advanced, suppress the truth. And that is what they did. And the intel community, top to bottom, isn't corrupt. It's corrupt at the top with a couple of minor players in between. And we can reform that by removing them and putting in the right personnel package.
Did you see the story that came out today about 2022 when Putin was threatening with a nuke and how President Biden, went to the Murdoch's house and was talking to all these people about a briefing he just had about how this is going to become true, and the government went on high alert. Does the government have a responsibility when it's Cuban Missile Crisis kind of crisis to come on television like Kennedy did and explain what's happening?
They do. And a commander-in-chief with all his faculties should do that. But Joe Biden is not that commander-in-chief. I don't want him anywhere near a television set because every time he does, he exposes the United States to another national security attack, be it cyber or otherwise, because they put on blast the ineffectiveness and ineptitude of our commander-in-chief. And right now, we don't need any more of that.
As somebody who's been around the military and in intel for a very long time, what did you make of the opening of his speech on Thursday, where his number one priority, right out, I mean, didn't even say the State of the Union is strong or anything. He just went right into, we're at war inside and outside of our country, and we must fight it. What do you think he was signaling?
He was speaking to the defense industrial complex that owns the swamp. The State of our Union from our commander-in-chief was the state of the Ukraine. That's what he led out with, and that should never happen. It is a world war of his making, and he is hustling D.C. along with the corrupt politicians who are owned by the defense industrial complex to do one thing: print money and send our men and women overseas to fight yet another war for another person and another political target to achieve victory at home on the political battlefield. Damn the cost in blood and treasure. That's what Joe Biden was doing, putting America last.
And when he talked about Israel, I don't know if you saw the report again that came out today about Joe Biden saying, I'm going to have a come to Jesus meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, which is kind of an awkward sentence to say, but said that, which, you know, Bibi has responded with, I have my own red lines. And then we're building a dock for Gaza, and we're going to be delivering food. Does that sound like a good idea?
It is an overt act of aggression. He is building a dock and saying we're not going to put boots on the ground. So we're going to put boots on planks and wooden boards in the territorial waters of a sovereign nation. Would the United States of America ever stand for anyone building a dock off our eastern seaboard to provide aid for any inner city folks? Absolutely not. It's a violation of domestic, federal statute, and international law. It is an act of overt aggression. And the Israelis and the people in Gaza equally are going to be offended and probably take action against it, which is going to harm American men and women in uniform.
And what would we do in response with this commander-in-chief?
We would, unfortunately, double down on the fight, and we would be looking at another 20-year Afghan campaign because Iran is flush with cash thanks to Joe Biden. They launched the war in Israel through Hamas, their proxy, and they are buying weapons at a rate that has never been seen before, and Joe Biden is weak on the global stage. All he can do is send men and women to die. So far, 5 American service members killed in that region under his watch, and now he's building a flotilla off the coastline of a world war. Only bad things can happen with Joe Biden at the helm.
I know people have said this since I was a kid. This is the most important election of our lifetime, blah, blah, blah. But lately it has gotten to be more and more important. And I honestly feel we're at a place that this may be the last election in America if things don't go right and people don't stay calm and everything else. Do you think that's hyperbole?
No, we are at an inflection point because for the first time in forever, it's national security, national security, national security. And America has seen the cost at our border, the cost overseas in the Ukraine and Israel wars, the cost in terms of the CCP in Russia and al-Qaeda on the rise. They have seen Joe Biden politicize intelligence, the Department of Defense and law enforcement, create a 2-tier system of justice to prosecute political targets, and they have seen a total weaponization of our government. And that's why we are at an inflection point come this election. America is seeing that Donald Trump, in my opinion, must be the commander-in-chief to guide us through all of what we just talked about successfully.
Kash, thank you so much. Kash Patel.